Showtime.
It's about that time.
Let's go.
You're right where you need to be. This is GCOM Radio.
Hardest radio station on the planet. Yeah.
Powered by Lyfeblood.com.
We certified.
And hosted by Nova Phoenix.
Give them that flavor.
Hey, what is going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Hey, yeah, all right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. We are here for another short episode. I'm your host, Nova Phoenix, on GCOM Radio on iHeartRadio, and we got a show that's going to be another short one for you. I got a couple things that I want to talk to you about before I get out of here. You know, I always got to give you a show every week. You know, it's funny, I did not post up the most recent show last week. Yo, let me tell you something. My mind is so outside of the current social media world right now. It's crazy. I'm just focusing on what I need to focus on. I'm so serious. I'm talking to you guys super tired. I came in, I worked out, did some cardio, I had dinner, and now I'm exhausted and it's catching up to me. And I've been tired since, let me tell you. I'm a type of person that really like, I will sacrifice sleep. I will sacrifice sleep and then literally pass out. And to the point where maybe I shouldn't be doing that. I should be getting rest. And I suggest folks that I'm not only talking to you or on giving advice when it comes to sleep, but also talking to myself as I'm saying this. You cannot use 5-hour energy drinks or Bang or what's the other drink? Red Bull or anything else to stay up. You know, the best way for you to stay focused and to stay up, guess what? Get your rest. Nothing beats rest, man. All those other energy drinks just race your heart, and then you can actually cause some damage to yourself, allegedly. So yeah, I gotta say that because all these all these drinks, all these companies that's got these drinks is gonna be like, huh, what? Yeah, but the best way to get rest and get focused on whatever you're doing is to get rest. Excuse me. See how it is? I'm losing focus. That's what happens when you're fatigued. You forget things. You lose focus. Rest is the most important thing to kind of get the body to recover. So anyway, get rest, folks. Get rest. I hope your week has been good. I'm steady been doing my thing, on and off, just on and off, on and off, on and off. You know what it is. Anyway, so let's get this show started so I don't get run off on too many other things. All right, the first thing I saw, man, Tory Lanez getting into trouble again. He got in front of a court judge because he broke his what do you call it? The court order to stay a certain amount of feet away from Megan Thee Stallion. So he did the Rolling Loud concert, and the baby brought him up on stage. And he did his thing, but then again, he has that court order and he broke it. He's supposed to stay I think 100 feet away from Megan Thee Stallion because he did that performance at Rolling Loud. He was in violation. So he got brought back to court. And instead of denying bail or anything like that, the judge just ordered him to pay another $60,000 on top of the $250K that he already paid to stay free. So I don't know, man. I don't know what's wrong with these folks, man. Listen, don't stop taking life as a game, man. Stop treating this whole thing, what you're going through, as a game. And I already said from the very beginning, everything that came out with Megan Thee Stallion, I'm like, just deport them out. You got to go through the formalities of court because some of these cats be wilding in the business. I mean, it really gets to them, man. I'm telling you, man. When you get money, you get attention, you get fame, you get all these things. It really turns you inside out and makes you become a really, disgusting person. And when you get caught out there, that's what happens. So, the judge says if he gets caught out there again, that instead of giving him more money to pay to stay out, she is just, I don't know what the judge. The judge says she's going to lock him up permanently. So I don't know, man. Tory Lanez got to smarten up and get serious about this and do what he needs to do. And the other problem is having yes men, man. When you have yes men all around you, nobody's there to really kind of guide you into the right path. So, unfortunately, that's the other part of the game. Nobody's going to really say what they need to say for the benefit of the artist because they're trying to get the bag or whatever the case may be. But, that's what happens when you don't have people around you. And I don't know how you deal with that. I don't know how you really, the only people that can be yes men is family if the family has a good head on their shoulders. But other than that, sometimes that fails plenty. All right, the next thing also in the subject matter of music, I don't know if this official or if this is a rumor, but there is talk, and this is one that gets me excited, that they plan to reunite for verses, that is. Everybody knows verses, and big ups to the Lox again for doing their thing against Dipset. They're getting a lot of good vibes off of the versus platform. Well, they're saying the next artist that would be dope for the show. This is all rumor. The opportunity to reunite the Fugees to go against who? The Roots. What? Can't you? Yo, now that is I wouldn't say it's a battle, but like how it was with the Lox and Dipset. But those are two iconic groups that if you're not in this hip hop thing for a long time, you don't know how important these two groups are to the hip hop music, to hip hop genre, to hip hop culture, to OGs. You know what I mean? And for all those new people that know who the Fugees are and the Roots and everything like that, they're legendary. And to get these two together to do verses, man, I think it would be super fantastic, man. And that's something I would definitely listen to from the first second to the last second. So if that is true, hopefully that is gonna come together, man. I can't wait for that. That's super dope. That's super dope. So we also got this thing with the vaccine. So everybody knows that cities and major cities are highly recommending people mask up when they go into restaurants and other areas, and also to show their vac card. When it comes to gyms, restaurants, any other indoor places. And, there's a lot of people upset because I'm speaking to some folks, and a lot of people upset about having to show their vac card and to mask up and all these things. And, I understand where they're coming from, but this is the problem when you have so many varying opinions and thought processes and ideas and viewpoints on this whole COVID thing. And I'm not taking a side on either side, pro or con, but just to see it as it is. And let me tell you, there's so much information on the web. I mean, when they first introduced the internet and they were talking about it 30, 40 years ago, whenever it kind of came on the scene, they promote it as being the information superhighway, and it's nothing ever that we've ever seen before or experienced. And everyone will have the ability to access information at the touch of a button. And it's not the same thing as an encyclopedia or going to the library, but it will be instantaneous information with a couple of keystrokes. And it's going to revolutionize the way human beings interact and find information, and the way we kind of see things as we access this information on our little desktop computers. Of course, nobody knew what the internet was, and it was like, okay, well, nobody understood the concept or realized what impact the internet would have on human beings all around the world. But here we are, fast forward into 2021. They were right having access to all this information within a couple of keystrokes. And it has revolutionized how human beings interacted, how we experience information, how we go about our daily lives, how we've made it more efficient in a lot of different ways, in ways that we never even thought of back in the day when they were promoting what this internet thing was. But the unfortunate thing that's happening also at the same time is the unfortunate part. There is so much information, and I'm not saying that information meaning right information, just information, whether it's wrong or right, it's information overload. There is so much varying opinions, there's so many people talking and writing and podcasting and talking from different platforms and media publications online. Everyone has an opinion. And when it comes to this COVID thing, because everyone can slice this piece of information, pro and con, 360 different ways. There are millions of people are being exposed to so much information that they don't even know how to process it. They don't even understand it. Now, from a major news media point of view, that they've kind of contributed to that fact in a bad way, because let me tell you, there's so much distrust and on how we get information in the major news mediums, like the television, the radio. People across the board, where I can understand it, right and left leaning, they both distrust major news and media. And the fact that there's so much information that that's been given to them that they just straight up been lied to. And they're tired of it. And they're tired of companies buying up other smaller companies, and these huge conglomerates, and these corporations are eating up the other corporations, and all of a sudden you have one large major news media corporation that's disseminating quote unquote news to millions of people. And where you can hear it in Seattle, it'll be the same words that they'll use in Florida, and from Maine to all the way down south to to California, Bakersfield, California. And people are realizing that a lot of the news is just not serving us different things, like a cat got stuck in a tree, but that also that there can be agendas at play, and people are swaying to more towards the internet. And the news, that they don't want that. They want people glued into 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, and 11 because they have shareholders to appease. And they need to get those ads coming, and they have to prove to all these companies that you're having a certain amount of eyes at 8 o'clock p.m. so they could get that ad money from these companies. But there is so much information out there, from bloggers to everyone across the board, that people are receiving this information. They really don't know how to process it. And there's so many bubbles that people get themselves into, right or left. All this information is really driving their viewpoint or their attitude and behavior towards the pros and cons of any particular subject matter. And I say even with the vaccine. I mean, it's gotten to the ridiculous, to the point where people are saying that you get the vaccine, that you could become sterile, or you'll get cancer, or you'll get so many different things. Now, of course, everybody knew that taking this vaccine was going to be a little tricky in terms of people not really knowing what the effect will be, and from the scientific community, from the medical community, and also from the people receiving the vaccine, because it was fast-tracked, because we're dealing with this pandemic. But it's so much out there that, I mean, you go for anyone from flights of fancy to some real good, worthwhile information, but then it gets lost in the sauce because everyone has something to say. And I also blame, again, to me, and I'll be honest, from my opinion, right here, major news media has something to do with it when they started to destroy investigative journalism. You know, back in the day when you saw that journalist and they had that long trench coat with their hat on, the fedora, and they had a little, a card in their head. It was back probably, I think, 1930s, 40s, 50s idea of what a journalist was. And they had their little pad and pen, and they would say, give me the information, or whoever they're asking, because they were trying to find the story. They were trying to find the truth of what was happening to that person, place, or thing. Investigative journalism no longer exists because it has been eliminated from how these major news mediums conduct their business, their journalistic business. Now, investigative journalism has been replaced with op-eds and editorials, opinion pieces. So we're not really giving people the truth, to the masses, of course, without there being an agenda. But now the airwaves, the internet is flooded with just opinions, not fact, not what's going on, like with this particular company or this person. And this investigative journalist have several witnesses to corroborate such evidence, such and so forth, will bring him to the conclusion that this is bad or this is very good. Now, one example that I could give as far as Blackfish, that documentary that came out. I love documentaries because it's all about what that subject matter is, and it's just eye openers when it comes to documentaries, depending on what subject matter you're talking about. But Blackfish, of course, was about the orcas in SeaWorld. And I forgot the guy that put together Blackfish. But of course, SeaWorld was an institution in Florida where you could go and see different sea animals and the splashing of the orcas and the whales, and it drenches people in the first 5, 6, 7 rows. They're wearing what do you call the plastic overalls with the hoodie? I can't remember what it is. So it was super fun. I remember the commercials from back in the day. But then when Blackfish came out, probably like 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever the time is, it put SeaWorld on blast because it showed from what the director was showing through the information that he gathered, that the orcas were depressed. And you could see that from their dorsal fins that kind of flopped over as they were kept in captivity. And orcas, whales, killer whales, are not meant to be in captivity. Even no matter how much they tried, SeaWorld and other places, they tried to give birth to orcas in captivity. The babies always died. The animals were depressed. The dorsal fins left out. Well, this documentary came out. It put SeaWorld on blast. And one day, SeaWorld was a great place to go to. Next thing you know, the whole United States was protesting SeaWorld. They tried to do damage control. SeaWorld say, no, we're taking care of these animals. We're doing great. And then all of a sudden, the pressure was too much, and SeaWorld had eventually shut down. Because people just didn't know. They couldn't believe it. They just didn't know. And documentary opened their eyes to the truth on how these animals were treated in captivity. And it's the same thing, what I'm saying, with investigative journalism when it comes to specific subject matter. It doesn't exist anymore. So people are inundated with just information from both sides. And both sides have agendas from wherever they're coming from. And everyone has an opinion. Everyone thinks that. And like I said, in the same way, on one side you have just like the flights of fancy and the absurd, to the other point where people have very slick ways on how they're giving information, and it still lies and it misdirects people. And a lot of times when you see on the internet, you see people talking and giving you information. Say they're giving you 10 points of information, good information, but then like 2 or 3 points within that 10-point information that was solid, 2 or 3 of those points sends people off into this wild goose chase. And people see, he was right on this piece. See what he said? And then they'll say, well, this thing will cause you cancer. And there's no scientific evidence for that. So this is this is where internet has gone. And media plays a part in it by destroying investigative journalism. So it's sad, and I have a lot of different points I want to say as far as how I feel about the vaccine. I won't go into too much detail because I just want to open up the conversation on how this pandemic that we're going through, and hundreds of thousands of people have died in America, and many more have died around the world, in Africa, in China, in Italy, in Spain, and of course Europe, in South America. You have all these deaths, and there are people that believe that the pandemic is fake. They believe the pandemic is fake. I'm like, what why do you feel that the pandemic's fake? So you think this whole thing is a hoax? There are doctors, there are hospitals, there are people in various areas in medicine, not just the United States, but in a lot of different regions in China, in Africa, in Europe. Everybody is faking it, and everybody's in on this huge, massive hoax. And that in itself, it's depressing in a way, because when you see people these doctors and nurses and these folks walking over dead bodies at the very beginning of the pandemic, back in February, March, right? April, 2020, and you're seeing all these dead bodies. And I live near a hospital, and I saw the refrigerated trucks in the back of these hospitals, and I see that they were prepared by taking out dead bodies. And it's extremely sad that, and then this person, and get me this one particular, because I'm thinking about this one particular individual, had their own family members get COVID. People that they work with at their job has gotten COVID, and yet this person will still believe that COVID is a hoax. and they don't believe in a vaccine. And, you have your own personal choice, personal beliefs, and some of them I understand. But how do we have to be able to determine an understanding between personal freedom and societal responsibility. That is very hard. I believe that people do have a choice whether they want to take the vaccine or not, for a variety of different reasons. That's their personal choice. But it comes to times where each individual, they are a part of the greater mass, or the greater, how should I say, body of the society. They are part of that body of society. And each one of us have a responsibility to that society. So we have to come to some understanding or meet in the middle and really think about what we're doing. Because yes, you can have a personal choice where you don't want to inject yourself for whatever reason. But also the pandemic is real. So where do we draw the line? Where we do want to take care of our loved ones. We do want to, nobody wants anybody to die, your neighbors or whatever. And when we hear those stories, we feel sad. We feel for that person that lost that loved one. So what are we supposed to do here? And I think that's the hardest part when you're dealing with something on this level when it comes to the pandemic. Man, it's so confusing and it's so crazy, and there's so much conversations you can have, and we can all talk to it blue in the face. And this is the unfortunate part of the internet, and all this information is swirling around, and the people, or let's say even major news media, and certain parts throughout the years, government has built up this distrust with the populace, and they all say it like, well, we don't trust ... You know what I mean? And America is going to have to come to terms with that, because you can't keep on doing dirt when it comes to those real events where you're doing people dirty, because eventually they catch on. The memory sticks. And then when you have something that you're really trying to get a hold of and people don't believe you, whose fault is it? And that's just not with the pandemic. That's just our society in general in America. When we're dealing with everything, when we're dealing with jobs, when we're dealing with education, when we're dealing with debt, when we're dealing with underemployment, when we're dealing with our infrastructure, when it comes to the infrastructure bill, when we're dealing with politicians, how they act towards their people, their constituents, all of these things, people eventually start getting angry and distrustful, because you can only trick the people but so much, and then they say, come on, man. And it all may not be logical. It could be illogical, and all of a sudden you created your own Frankenstein. And there's just nothing you can say that's going to get this right. When I'm talking about the people that actually pull the levers and push the buttons of how this society functions. So, hey, something to think about. Afghanistan here, and it just leads into Afghanistan, my next subject. So this whole thing with Afghanistan, and here's a perfect point. It's funny that this kind of bleeds over into this topic. And now it's sad to say that, American troops are getting pulled out. Biden saying that American troops are going to get pulled out. And look what happened. Taliban just ran right up in there, and without breaking a sweat, they just took over Afghanistan. And it's sad, and it's man. There are people that can't even understand what's going on in Afghanistan. And most people don't understand what's going on around the world. Forget Afghanistan. People don't even know what's going on in Texas. New Yorkers don't know what's going on in Texas. People in what you call California don't know what's going on in Kentucky. So how are they going to know what's going on in Afghanistan? But what people do know is the fact that the United States have been there over 2 decades and spent $2 trillion on a region across the pond that really didn't get anywhere. So everybody's asking the same question: why the hell was America there in the first place? Because as soon as they leave, the Taliban come right up in there and take their place like Americans were never really there in the first place. And then when you hear that they spent $2 trillion and that same money, as what everybody's saying right and left, how is America going to spend $2 trillion over there in Afghanistan and they ain't going nowhere? We got our own problems over here. That $2 trillion could have been spent on something more worthwhile for citizens here. Now, how much is our student loan debt? 1 point something trillion dollars? And here we are, $2 trillion in the hole in a country that nobody knows what was the agenda, what was the objective, how we were trying to get out there, what was the whole point, spent $2 trillion, and here we go, we have 1 point something of student loan debt, and that's just still sitting there. And then Biden, listen up, Biden passes student debt relief, right? Student debt relief, I believe it was $5 billion for the disabled. And I'm like, what? Wait a second. I faintly remember them saying that presidents couldn't pass any student loan debt relief. And here we are, got Biden saying that he's passing student loan debt relief for the disabled, which comes up to be about $5 billion. Now, who are you fooling? Now, of course, I think this is kind of tied into what's going on with Afghanistan. I don't even blame Biden because a lot of the right have their own agenda. They're saying they want to blame Biden. I mean, we want to blame Biden for a lot of things. But when it comes to what's going on in Afghanistan, that's something that I don't put it on Biden's shoulders. This is something that has been going on across presidential administrations. I think it goes back to Reagan or Bush Sr. We were up in there 2 decades, man. This is when it comes to American foreign policy and how much we don't know what's happening across the world. Understand what I'm saying? And here we are, we have so much student loan debt and we can't get anywhere with that. But yet we're spending $2 trillion. And on top of that, they want to give $500 billion to Afghan refugees to go where? Who knows? Because it's showing that, when military planes were taking off, they were Afghan refugees, or however you want to call them. They were hanging off of planes, dying as the planes were taking off in the air. Now, what are we supposed to do with this $500 billion? Where are you taking them? Where is this money going? And the one thing that builds up distrust amongst the American people, America never really tell you, they never really lay out what happens to this money when it goes to some foreign country. They just say $500 billion being allocated for beep, 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 beep. But there's no follow-up. Nobody knows where there's no track record. Okay, that money got allocated there. That went there. That went there. Oh, I see how this country's getting built up. Okay, I see it. Some concrete results, nothing. That's how the distrust builds up. That's why people tend to distrust, or where we're currently at with major news media. And also in a lot of ways, the American government. So the American government got a lot of work to do to build up trust. And I don't know how you build up trust when you kind of get at people decade after decade. And then it just comes to a point where people are like, all right, enough's enough. No matter how absurd they feel this information that they're getting about what the government's doing or not doing, or what's up with this, people are just tired. So interesting what's going on in Afghanistan. Listen, I'm not even, I'm not an expert in what America does across the world and in different countries. I read up as much articles as I can to try to understand, but really you need an expert to get down dirty and deep. And I look at YouTube videos as much as I can. So I'm never going to tell you guys I know everything about what's going on. I know what's not going on, certain things that's not true. That when they're lying to the American people, or what we're really, and I can speculate, but then again, I'm not going to try to come off like all these other people on the internet and say, well, this is what's happening. You got to believe me because I just know. You know what I mean? I'm not one of those keyboard experts where now all of a sudden I'm a botanist, or now I'm a virologist, or no, now I'm an expert in foreign policy. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to tell you what I see. And that we have to build trust with the experts, the ones that don't have an agenda, to really kind of break it down to us and, okay, what's really going on over there? You know what I mean? So, yeah. Last before I get out of here, I'm already reaching my 30-minute mark. So Gravity Payment CEO Dan Price, man, he was in an Inc. article talking about the responsibility of founders and the companies they operate. He's the CEO that dropped his pay down to $70,000. I think he paid himself the minimum in order to properly pay his employees. In a world where CEOs and shareholders get paid millions of dollars, millions, and workers get shillings off the table. And there was this graph where back in the 1960s, CEOs made $900,000 or something or other. Now they make $24 million, and then workers make $45-something thousand a year. Now it's $64,000 a year. So just to show how much money that CEOs and founders are definitely making, and how little workers are getting paid. Now, I'm not saying for everybody to beat Dan Price if they ever want to start a business and they want to start $1 billion business, but I think we got to start paying attention to how we treat our employees. These are the people that's making our business billion-dollar businesses. I don't care if it's flipping burgers. I don't care if you're working at, if you're a coder. I don't care if you're in insurance. Whatever it is that you do, that your company is $1 billion or at least multi-million-dollar. You're in the Fortune 500, that you have to extract every last bit of penny from the consumers and pay in return, pay so little back to the people that's making you the billions. I think, as I always said, we have to be more responsible CEOs and founders. And I think we're turning the corner there. If it's not going to be more from the legacy companies, the companies have been around for 50, 70, 80 to 100 years, some longer. But the new companies, man, the company's been around for 20, 25, for the new companies that's popping up right now, that we have to change the way how we do things. We have to start caring for people, because these, as I said, they're making what, and you don't have to be Dan Price where you're gonna have to cut your money down to 20. But if you're making gazillions of dollars in a quarter, gazillions more in the year, in the annual, when you do your books, you have to create an atmosphere where the quality of life of the people that work for you is optimum, at its optimum level. That could be health insurance, that could be daycare, that could be days off, vacation. And I know what, someone has to sit down and reinvent what it is to be an employee. And maybe the employees have to be involved and sit down with the CEOs or whoever to say, hey man, we would love this. But the idea of the ways how we did companies or corporations are done. The days of Gordon Gekko are over, and I spoke about this before, but it's interesting. I'm just bringing it up because I saw that Dan Price article. So even if it's, you're not a multi-million-dollar company, even if you're a mom and pop, start thanking your employees to start with. And then if you're really making good money for your community, do things that's going to work out for your employees. Stop treating them like shit. Stop treating them like dogs on a leash. And that's my word for the day. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Just sharing it with you. Please, like I said, always be a part of this Lyfeblood world. And I guess I'm one of those companies that's going to be what they call conscious capitalism. I guess we want to call it that, or corporatism. Not to the point where people are going to be. I'm not saying that. You can make your money, but you can still take care of people at the same time. So please, as I always say, sign up to Lyfeblood.com. Be a part of this new world that we're building. And Lyfeblood is not just in terms of being a crowdfunding site, a fintech site in the area of finance. It's going to be a whole lot more once we build that community. Have all types of ideas, and I share a little bit on my IG page. Now I don't do IG as much. Yeah, folks, like I said, I'm focused right now, and I want to make a turn for the end of 2021 to really get where I need to be, because I am so fucking serious of where I want to go. You have no idea. That's why I'm doing the show, and I'm cutting it down to a half, and I will bring the show back to the full format. But right now, I got some things I got to take care of, and I'm doing it. I'm working towards it every day. So, guys, thank you for listening to me babble. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys next week. Much love to the deepest parts of my heart for listening. And yeah, man, enjoy the rest of the week for you guys. All right, I'm out of here. See you next week. Peace.
Check it.
You just listened to GCOM Radio, powered by Lyfeblood.com for the global community.
We worldwide, baby.
See you in the next go-round. From right here to your town, we out.